Hey everybody and welcome back to the Sketch Academy. I'm glad you're with me today. I'm very excited about this video because I know it's going to help you out a lot in your sketching. As long as you have an open mind and not be too afraid of trying it, I'm sure this is a very fast way to learn how to get the perspective and proportions right. If you watch my previous videos, you know that I'm not really a big fan of setting up an entire grid system of lines if I want to sketch something in perspective. I like to sketch using a technique that I call cloud sketching. So if you're a student of mine, you've probably heard about this technique before. I want to introduce you to that technique in this video and show you how you can apply it into your own sketching. It's more of a loose way of figuring things out as you go, more than setting everything up perfectly from the get-go. And to me, when I set up a grid system before I even get to the sketching part, I'm kind of drained already, and I don't want to lose that momentum of I want to sketch by setting up a grid system before starting to get into the details or the product of what it is I want to sketch, if that makes sense. So if you're ready for that, grab your pen and paper and let's get into the sketching part. Alright guys, so here we go. We have a clean sheet of paper, regular print paper. This time, as always, we're not using markers this time, and the big round stick here as usual. Now, cloud sketching. Let's talk about that for a second, and let's talk about how it can help you in your sketching. So cloud sketching is essentially a simplified way of sketching things in perspective, and also how to get the proportions of a product right. And it's also a way of adjusting as you go and not having the pressure of having everything perfect from the start. So no matter what it is you're sketching, if you're sketching a coffee cup like this right here, or if you're sketching a car or a motorcycle or a flower for that matter, it doesn't really matter. You can always use this technique. So the technique is simple. You start with a big cloud of what it is you're sketching. So a cloud can look however you want, but let's start, for example, to just sketch a coffee cup here. So we have an ellipse like this, and this is going to be within this ellipse, or this ellipse is going to be the general guide for our product and what we're sketching. So we have, this is the main body of the cup, and then what is another big feature of pretty much every single cup? That would be the handle. So we need to have some sort of resemblance to a handle here, and we can make that something like this. I don't know, we're just gonna play around with this until we get something right here. And then we need to determine the perspective of this cup. So I like to have a little bit of a top view for this, so we can see the top right there. And then of course that means that we're gonna have to do the same thing in the bottom, although a little bit wider at the bottom since it's in perspective. And then we can connect these two sides, maybe have some curvature to it as well. So from here, let's stop here for a second and analyze where we are in the sketch and what we can improve upon. So first of all, what I see here is it looks pretty straight. It's okay for a sketch. It's not 100% symmetrical maybe, but I want to, for example, fix this ellipse up here. And also fix the baseline of this. Something like this. And we can always come back to this later on in the sketch and make it even cleaner if you want to do that. But those are the two things that I saw from this first step that I want to stop and adjust. And that's also part of this sketching technique, is to stop every now and then and see where you're at, see what needs to be adjusted, and then you adjust as you go. We're still gonna have this big ellipse visible throughout the sketch because of course it's a big pen, I can't really erase it. But if you were using a pencil, for example, you might want to erase it if you want to, but I kind of like to see the sketch evolve from the initial lines and then where we took it and how it evolved over over time. So I think this is pretty good to start with right here. There, just clean that up a little bit. So now we can move on to the handle. So the handle of a cup can look very differently, but let's just make a traditional handle. And that, to me, is built up by 3 different lines that go something like this. That's the only thing we need at this moment. From here, we stop again and see if everything looks okay. Are the proportions okay? Do I need to move these lines up and down or in and out or something like that? But for now, I think this looks pretty good. So what we're gonna do now is start to add the details of this handle and just create the thickness of it. So I'm pretty much duplicating the line I just did and add it to the sketch. And from here, of course, if you want to, I would suggest you do it, is to add the line weight here. And the line weight is a good... I would suggest always adding line weight to your sketches, just because of practice reasons. You don't want to miss an opportunity to practice something if you have the opportunity to do it in a sketch. So, for example, in this sketch, we're practicing ellipses. We're practicing lines with these lines right here. We're practicing a little bit of perspective. It's not the most complicated perspective, but it's still some sort of perspective. And we're also practicing line weight. Why not? Just throw it in there, since we're sketching without markers and we want to have some depth in this. We might as well throw in some line weight to this. So that was the first product of cloud sketching and how it works. Essentially what it is a way for you to not be too afraid to sketch and to put lines down. Because I remember when I was a student, I spent too long just trying to get everything perfect, and I think that really made my progress so much slower than if I just were to go for it and just sketch, put down random lines over here and there. And also, when you learn things in school and universities and whatever from society in general, I guess, you only see it from one perspective. You only get one way of learning it, and who's to say that would be the best way of learning that specific thing that you're trying to practice, if that makes sense. So what that means is be very open to exploring yourself, your own techniques and your own ideas of sketching, or whatever it is you're trying to learn. It doesn't have to be sketching, it can be whatever. But don't be stuck and think that what you're being taught is the only way of doing something, because there are a thousand different ways of doing pretty much anything, and you might even come up with your own style of doing something. For example, this is my style of sketching, this cloud sketching technique here. So that was one product. I know you guys want to see cars. So it's been a while since I sketched a car. Actually, it was like 2 days ago. But anyway, I would love to sketch a car again. So let's just, for the heck of it, let's just add a car using... Let's sketch a car using the cloud sketching technique. We can do 2 different cars here. Or actually, start with one. So let's do one in a 3/4 rear view. That's one of my favorite views to sketch. And let's make a regular car, a sports car. We can make a 2-door coupe or something like that. Very simple, just to explain the philosophy behind the cloud sketching here. So first of all, let's get the volume, the big cloud. Let's get the cloud out first. So this is our cloud here. Within this is going to be our guide, just as this egg shape here was for the cup. So what we want to do now is figure out, first of all, since because it's a car, it's a little bit more complicated. We need to think about proportions. We need to think, is it a front, rear front, rear, or mid-engine car? Is it an SUV, two-door sedan, or whatever? But we know that we want to sketch a front-engine, two-door car here. First of all, let's just put out one wheel at the end of this cloud here, and then the second wheel at the middle of this cloud. So let's just put that out right there. And what we want to do now is pause here and have a look at this and see. I don't know if you can already see where this is going, where you can kind of see from just this, you see where everything is supposed to go because of this cloud here. This is the best guide that you can have for moving forward with this sketch. So this would obviously be the roofline here that dips down to a, let's just cut this right there. Let's just make a cut like that. And then we make a front fender by adding something that goes up from the wheel here. And then we can have it dip. It's actually a lot harder to do this slowly than it is fast. I could, when I stop and think about it, it just, I don't know, it gets a lot harder for some reason. It's so weird. But let's just dip this down like that, something. And then in the middle of this, so we have these two axles here. And the more lines we put down, the more reference points we get, and the easier it is to sketch this car. So the hardest part is getting the initial cloud down. I think that's the hardest part with any product when you're sketching with using this cloud sketching technique. So since it's a front engine, we want to cut this. We want to have the A-pillar start somewhere in the middle between these two axles here. So we have this distance here. You can use this as a reference for a front engine two-door car. In the middle here, we add a line there, and that's where the A-pillar starts. So let's connect now the A-pillar to the roof line here. Let's just make a simple line like that. And as you can see, the more lines we put down, the easier it is for your mind to see where the rest of the lines are supposed to go, if that makes sense. So the idea is to just keep putting down lines, even if this line here, even if I put the A-pillar completely off, something like this angle, I can see that immediately once that's done. And what I do then is just adjust as I go. I would just make another line until I can kind of get a feel for what's right. From here, I just want to connect. Let's just make this go down like that. And let's copy this line. Let's mirror this line over here, the exact same line, to create the C pillar. And then we want to connect. We want to have some sort of window line there, and then we connect this point, A pillar, to the window line right here, like that. And then if you want to, we can go ahead and create a rear fender as well. Something like that. Doesn't have to be too much pressure on that one. And then I know a lot of you are going to say that I need side mirrors, so I'm going to add a side mirror here. I don't usually do that, but why not? Let's just put it out like that. Now, we are done with this car sketch. In my opinion, this is the hardest part to get to this point. Now, all we got to do is just add all the details to this sketch, whatever we want this to look like. The graphics, the wheels, and all of that good stuff. That's pretty much all graphic work. Let's add some quick wheels here. Something like huge 28-inch wheels, classic car sketch stuff. And then we can add the baseline here. Let's just connect these two axles, and then we need a baseline in the rear as well. I want to have that go up here because I want to have a diffuser of some sort. Very simple, like that. Can add one exhaust in one corner, another tip in the other, and from here, not sure what we want to have the rear graphics be like, but let's just make a round Oops, that was got a little bit messy over here, but that's fine. Then we can add a logo of some sort, and this is the car I've been sketching probably 10,000 times in my life. And the thing is, if I want to adjust this, it's very easy once I have this sketch done. All I gotta do is just switch up some lines. If I want this to be a rear or a mid-engine car, all I gotta do is move this point here. So I start the A-pillar over here and dip it sooner. And then all of a sudden we have a mid-engine car. It's all about experimenting and of course having fun with it and not do what I did for a long time, which was taking sketching too seriously and getting mad when things didn't work out. And I looked at other people's sketches from professional designers and I thought, how are they doing that? I'm never going to get to that point of sketching. I don't know if you know, if I'm really that skilled, if I'm ever gonna get to that point. But you know, when you talk like that to yourself, one thing is for sure, you're never going to get to the point if you talk to yourself like that. You just gotta keep putting the lines down, keep having fun with it, and practice. And that's why I created this channel, because I know the feeling of being stuck with something, and it's kind of frustrating sometimes. But I'm trying to just encourage you to not take it too seriously and realize that everything is going to take a lot of time. And if you put in the time, there is no reason why you're not improving. You know, just put in the time, sketch every day, have some fun with it, and you should be good to go. So that was a car. I think we have space for something else down here, or maybe up here. I'm looking around here on my desk to see what we can sketch. Let's sketch a hat. Let's sketch a hat, for example. It's a pretty interesting item. It's a weird looking item. Now I need to go get a hat. Hold on a second. Alright, I got my sketch hat right here as a reference. And I think this is going to be a long video. I apologize for that. It's very hard to keep this video short because sketching real time, that's just not that easy to cut it down. So let's start here again with the cloud of the hat. So just make it a circle like that. And then what we want to do is figuring out what type of elements the hat is built up of. So we have the first thing is the hat itself without the cap. So let's just cut this somewhere around there. And then we can start to add some definition to this. Something like this. Just put the lines out. Alright, so there we go. We have the reference point. That's another thing that's super useful if you're sketching something you're not familiar with, is to have a reference item in front of you, or just Google the image and see what it actually looks like. So I want to now stop here for a second and have a look at this and how we're doing with this sketch. I think we need to definitely create the baseline here, and we're actually looking at this from the top, not from the bottom, so I don't want to see anything of the inside of the sketch. So that means that we need to fill out this part, this line right there, and all of a sudden we just mentally switched angle here from looking at it from the bottom to now looking at it from a slight top view. Now this is the tricky part. We need to figure out how to sketch the cap or the visor. So let's just put out some very, very, very thin lines here. Let's see if this might work. I think so. This is the simple shape of this thing that we're sketching right now, and that is the visor of the hat. It's just three different lines like this, very simple. And now we can start to see if it's right in perspective, And I think it is, so what we can do now is start to define it and go add some curvature to this. And then connect this. This is also a bit of a curve, looks like that. And then connect the top as well. Have that line be a little bit thinner. And then we can maybe even just visualize that it's bending over itself. So I'm creating this little thing right here. And we did that from the 3 initial lines that we did, sticking out from this hat. So that's pretty much what I wanted to show you today. This is the cloud sketching technique. And the essentials of it is to just adjust as you go and don't try to make anything perfect. Put the lines down first and then you stop to think about the perspective. Because if you have a blank canvas, it's very intimidating sometimes to just put down some lines, but that's the whole point. Just forget about perfection and just put the lines down and see where you're at. Pause every now and then and see if you need to make any adjustments and so on. So that's about it, guys. Sorry for the long video this time, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, and I really hope you try this out yourself. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's all part of the process of learning something. So pick up the pen and some cheap print paper and just get sketching. And if you want, you can tag me on Instagram at the Sketch Monkey with your results. I would really like to see that as well. That would be really cool to see. Thank you for spending a few minutes with me today. A few. I really appreciate it. I hope to see you in the next video. Take it easy, guys.